Thank you, Sister Diane. We all have a nice catered lunch today. Our staff is not on furlough, so we have a nice catered lunch. And I don't know whether the sign that fell down for 3 times is any indication of the anxiety for my talk or not, but the theme, I was in prison and you visited me. Now we all know that that is a corporal work of mercy, and it calls all of us. But we ask, how often do we really do it? How often? I don't think I ever expected to be doing just that, or even to be near a prison, until I was in Chimbote, Peru, and working with the Diocesan Social Justice Commission, which had as part of its ministry service to the incarcerated in the jail of Cambio Puente, just outside of Chimbote. This was also a national ministry, which occasionally brought together teams from all the dioceses to share experiences and plan for the best ministry in all prisons. As I prepared my reflection today, I thought I would share some of my experiences in Cambio Puente and the ministry there, and some other more recent experiences here in Ohio, visiting a prisoner each month in the London Correctional Institute, being a member of the Circles of Restorative Justice, and a member of the board of Horizon Prison Initiatives. Cambio Puente was a mixed prison, men and women, minor and maximum security, built to house about 300 prisoners, but actually housing more than 1,000. Severely overcrowded, there were poor health services, poor food, and basic hygiene. Not a very welcoming place. But access to all the prisoners in their pabellones, or cell blocks, and even to their cells. We had complete access. What might have seemed like a threatening situation to some was not what I experienced. Granted, the men and women in this prison had committed a crime, some murder, some whatever, or were suspected of committing a crime, and were deprived of their liberty and sometimes subjected to the cruelty at the hands of their guards. But they were men and women who deserved to be treated with respect and understanding. My initial visits to Cambio Puente were mainly pastoral, planning liturgical celebrations for various feast days, and preparing those who wished for the reception of the sacraments, preparing for competition between pabellones for the decorations at Christmas time, choral groups for the singing of Christmas carols. We even had live babies for Jesus in some cases when prisoners brought their families to celebrate. They loved to prepare for special occasions, such as an enactment of the Christmas feasts and the Passion and Death of Christ, with marches around the prison, carrying the cross and everything. One preparation for baptism is memorable, as I insisted that each prisoner secure his or her own sponsor for the ceremony. One youth, Jose, pleaded with me to be his sponsor. And I stressed the need for someone who was close to him, who could accompany him through life, as I would not be able to do. I knew his family came from a nearby town, and that it would be possible for him to get a sponsor without any problems. Well, the day for baptism came, and during the Mass, the priest asked if everyone had a sponsor there, and of course, you know what came next? Jose raised his hand and said he did not have a sponsor. The priest turned to me and said, "Madre, would you please be this young man's sponsor?" What could I say as I saw Jose jumping for glee? He is so saying, I won. I have no idea where he is today, but I think of him often and can only say a prayer for him. On another day, Gloria and I, a woman who had worked together in the sacrament preparation, were walking in the center of Chimbote when 2 men approached. One we recognized as Fidel, a former policeman who had been a prisoner in one of the maximum security pabellones, and who would have won the prize for order and promptness for all of his groups coming to the participation of the program in the regular meetings. Without any formal acknowledgement, Fidel asked, "Are you still going out there?" And we said, "Yes, we still go out there." Without giving away the significance of the question, we responded, "Yes, we are," and we all moved on. Perhaps his companion did not know what out there meant, Occasionally, an English-speaking prisoner would land in Cambio Puente without the ability to speak Spanish or navigate the legal system. Such was the case of Daniel from England, arrested for being a mule or carrying drugs. I became a go-between with him and the English embassy and the family, trying to get him extradited to England to finish his jail time and receiving funds from his family for his basic needs. Needless to say, this was rather complicated. His birthday was coming up one day, and we managed to buy a cake and take it to him to share with his cellmates, something that would never happen here. The same day, we received a call, an emergency call from one of his cellmates. Of course, it was on an illegal cell phone, saying that he had a major medical crisis and had died. This was traumatic for all involved, our pastoral staff, his friends in the prison, and the penal staff as well. Thus followed the arrangements for his cremation and return of ashes to his family, as well as other legal matters. His fellow cellmates were very affected by his death and wanted a special memorial mass celebrated together, which we were able to arrange. On the death of a family member of a prisoner, there is sometimes the possibility of a brief visit by the prisoner, heavily guarded, to view the body, which is usually waked in the home. This is rare and costly. On one occasion, we were not able to get the permission for one young man, but the warden did agree that if we brought the body, he could enter the security area and the prisoner could spend a few moments in visitation. Well, you can imagine what that involved. It may sound simple, but the funeral services are quite different from the U.S. The body is not embalmed and is usually in a coffin with a glass top for viewing, and the wake is in the home. We managed to get a station wagon to transport this coffin to the prison. A bouncy ride through the desert with the coffin not quite fitting in the back of the station wagon and accompanied by some family members in other cars. If not such a serious moment, it could have seemed comical. Coffin was allowed to enter the gates of the prison, remain in the entrance area as the exterior door was closed and the inner door was opened to allow the young man to have a brief moment of mourning at his father's side. Not exactly what you may experience as a very reverent time, but we were able to have a brief prayer service to help the family deal with this difficult time. This time of ministry, only a part of my ministry in Peru, was very special for me. I remember the first time we went to do a workshop with the young men. And while doing this exercise to help build self-esteem, we asked them to list all the positive quality names and qualities that they could remember people saying about them. All the positive qualities. And also all the negative names that they had experienced. The list of negative names usually came out much longer. I remember one young man saying he couldn't remember one positive thing anyone had ever said of him. Not one. As a result of this one experience, we decided we needed to work with these young men on a more regular basis. And so we developed a comprehensive program to help them with communication skills, self-esteem, interpersonal relations, decision-making, their own spirituality, etc. Workshops every 2 weeks were held in whatever space the prison allowed. I remember during one workshop, I had placed my purse and things in a bench in the corner and was working with the young men, and all of a sudden I thought, I better check my purse. And needless to say, it had been practically emptied of pencils, notepad, money, rosary, etc., without my even seeing that had happened. As a result, I reacted like a banshee. How could you do this? I don't even have money to get home. I'm coming out here to help you, and this is the way you treat me. We ended our session, and the guard said to me, Madre, what do you expect? You're in prison, you know? So one of the participants gave me a soul, enough to get home on. And I later reflected on this, realizing that these young men had nothing. And perhaps a pencil, a notebook, a rosary would be one of the few possessions that they could have. Some of these young men were released from prison while I was there, and they kept in touch in different ways, sometimes helping at the Justice Center, doing a terrible job painting the auditorium, seeking help with the sale of their crafts, which they had learned to make while in jail, or giving me a surprise embrace when they encountered me on the street. Sometimes it was from behind, and I didn't know whether I was being held up or what. But here in Columbus, my ministry began with the request from a prisoner in Logan Correctional Institute to have a pen pal. After several months of writing to him, he asked if I would be willing to visit. And when I said yes, he began the necessary process for the paperwork internally to get me approved. So, Sister Mary Edmond at the same time was getting that request. So she and I go monthly to visit him, as his family lives in the East and only comes twice a year to visit. So we go once a month for a 2-hour visit, and on a specified day we request the time. But we are together in a large room sitting at tables across from the prisoner that we are visiting, and everybody else is in the same room, in the same situation. We don't go inside the prison as I was used to doing in Chimbote. There's no interest into the body of the prison, and so it's very impersonal. I was looking for some volunteer work which would not interfere with my primary ministry as mission group coordinator of the Motherhouse. And since the prison ministry in Chimbote was so meaningful, I decided to take the training to become a volunteer in the Circles of Restorative Justice program, a program established by Judge Gill, which is a program that allows youth who have been arrested for the first time to have the opportunity to come before a representative of the court and members of a circle to review the case, and upon successful completion of a plan of action for restoration, can avoid a prison sentence. These circles meet in different areas throughout the city on a monthly basis. And usually there are about 5 community representatives together with a representative from the court, and the youth and parents or guardians, whoever is responsible, come for 2 times. They come first to present their situation, what happened, why did it happen, how do they feel about it, what do they think they need to do to make amends, and then they write a plan of action, and the observers also write a plan of action, which they agree to. They go home, work on that for a month, and then come back for a second time. If they complete that circle, then they can be released and they won't have a prison record. So, the program was established by Judge Gill 4 years ago, and it is being supported through the BREAD organization with an expansion into the school system this year to train teachers and staff in restorative justice practices to foster the healthy relationships and promote positive discipline in schools. So a team from Columbus schools went to Pittsburgh this past summer for training, and now that program is being established in various schools here in Columbus. So hopefully that will help with cutting down on the student, if there's any infraction in the school, usually there's suspension. So what happens is the student's out on the street and there's no correction. So hopefully this program will eliminate that and give a more positive help to the students. A document that was issued by the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops this year, entitled Responsibility, Rehabilitation, and Reformation, A Catholic Perspective on Crime and Criminal Justice, is a wonderful document if you want to take a look at that, on the need for reform of the criminal justice system in the USA. It's in a letter to the Senate on August the 6th, 2018, there was included a quote from Pope Francis. "It is necessary to do justice, but the true justice is not satisfied by simply punishing criminals. It is essential to do further and do everything possible to reform, improve, and educate the person so that he matures from every point of view, does not become discouraged, addresses the damage he caused, and can reestablish his life without being crushed and under the weight of his hardships." And we know that there are many cases of prisoners that are in jail who have been falsely accused or who have not had good legal advice, and they may be in prison for years for something that they did not do. And we see different instances where some have been released after years. But there is injustice in the system. I believe this is the vision of an organization of which I am a board member, the Horizon Prison Initiative, which operates in both London Correctional Institute and the Ohio Reformatory for Women in Maryville. This program is aimed at helping inmates transform their lives by gaining a deeper understanding of their chosen faith, learn to live in a functioning family, assist in contributing to the larger community, and to face the reality that brought them to prison. Through this program, I've had the opportunity to go into the prison on occasion for specific programs. I'm still waiting for final approval for a year and a half now to become an outside sister for regular inside programs with the women at Marysville. I haven't figured out what in my application is suspicious enough to hold up the application, but it's a year and a half now, and it's been over a year. So maybe my years in Peru have made me suspect, I hope I have given you some idea of what it means to respond to the corporal work of mercy, visiting the imprisoned. And I welcome you to explore the possibilities that might attract you to do the same thing. Thank you very much. I don't know. Any questions or comments you'd like to make? Yes, Joanne.
Germaine, is it true that
Yeah. Is it true?
Is it true that in Peru that people have to, the families have to help in making sure that the prisoners, their child or their husband would get food?
It helps.
They don't get fed well, or
They don't get fed well. I mean, the paellas, as they call the food that comes out, is not very appetizing. However, the women in the prison have little businesses. They can cook, and the men can buy their food from them, or even sometimes the men have stoves and they could do their own cooking if they get help from outside for the supplies. I mean, we used to have. They always wanted to have, a party, and can we have a? I'll stop thinking. I'll lose my Spanish now. A pollada. Can we have a pollada, which means when people have poyadas, they cook chicken dinners and sell them to raise money for some particular thing. So they would want to have a poyada, which meant we brought the big pots in and the rice, bags of rice and the chicken, and then they cooked it, so we had this big party with. So as I said, it was not like here. I mean, here we can't even get inside. But there, I mean, we could get in and work with them and celebrate with them and, So, but people, if families have the resources to bring in food to them, it makes it much more nourishing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
What was the age span of some of the prisoners that you worked with?
The young men that we worked with were 18 to 22. Once in a while, somehow a 16 or 17-year-old got in, slipped in, but they did not belong there. So the ones we worked with, as a group, with a program, were 18 to 22, and there were usually no women in that age group, so it was the young men that we worked with on that.
How old is this one you're working with now?
Let's see, he's in his 50s, I think, yeah.
Is there for life?
Hopefully not, but 20 years to life with possibility of parole, but each parole hearing so far he's been denied. So, and his mother and sister come twice a year, and we go with them, so there are 4 of us there for a 2-hour visit. But they come and they're able to stay for 2 days. So, but we're the only visitor that he has. And I asked him, would he please send me his feelings about my coming to visit. Does it mean anything to you? Is it anything? I'd like to be able to share that with this group. Well, I'm still waiting for it. What can I say? What can I say? I'm still waiting for it in writing.
Sister, as far as the prison industry goes, there's one that's called Kairos.
Yes, Kairos.
So how does that differ from? I mean, I know it's a lot more like pray for.
Yeah.
Make cookies and some other things.
Okay, Rose, you're on.
Okay.
Here, you want the microphone? If I can get it unhooked, I don't know. Here.
Thank you. I just clip it on here.
Yeah, you can just hold it in your hand.
Oh, hold on. Okay, here. Kairos is a group that it means God's time, and it's all over the country. It's in Australia. It's now once a year we give a big retreat for 4 days, and we go to the prison. excuse me, on Thursday, and we keep going. We go home to sleep, and then we come back every day until Sunday. And the people who started this have very carefully worked it out. There's a book this thick on beautiful talks about forgiveness, adaptation, and then we go for 2 months, every Saturday, from 9 till 3, to prepare for this. One of the things that we do is to bring good food that they don't normally have, good fruit, good, and people do the cooking. The members of the team's husbands come for weeks ahead of time and everything, not the same with us, but in terms of preparing it. Now, they only cook it a few days before. But the idea is to bring God's unconditional love. We don't ask them why they're there. We only show them, we try to show them God's unconditional love. And that's what we want to show them. And they really do appreciate it. To continue the program, we go once a month for what's called Prayer and Share. And the other 3 weeks in the month, there are prayer groups. Last night, we had Prayer and Share. And you would be just amazed at some of the things they say. There's usually a question. And last night's question was, the person who presented it was a prisoner, and she told the story of the donkey whom God would not let move, because if it moved, it would take him to a place where he shouldn't have been. He would have been harmed. So for her it was, very often you don't get what you want because God is saving you from something else. And so you would be amazed what that provoked in the group. You know, how everyone told who was her donkey. And the stories that they told. And the sort of confessions that they made. You know, I find myself not doing this. I find myself being offensive to people that I shouldn't be. You know, anyway. That's what Kairos does.
And it takes a lot of young people like Sister Rose to really work on it, you know. Yeah, you know. Okay.
I have a question, if I may. Sister, I'm intrigued that when you came back to the States here, you were drawn back into working in the prisons. And I'm interested to have you comment on what you have found fulfilling personally, what the impact on you has been from your time working with the prisoners.
Well, even in Peru, just knowing that, you know, all of these people were important. You know, all of these people were individuals. They may have committed a crime, or what? I'm going to have. They may have committed a crime, but they were all children of God, and they all had a value, and so many of them taught me so much, you know, just by being with them. Whether it was their gratitude for, you know, what we were trying to do, or what. So it was what I learned from them, and the relationship that I had with them, and the team working with them in Peru. Because, as I said, it not only was a team out of our justice office in Chimbote, but it was a national team. So it was a national ministry to the incarcerated. And so when I came back, I have this job at the Motherhouse, which is wonderful, you know, being with the sisters, all of whom are in their 80s or 90s or whatever, as I am. And but I needed something outside, you know, to should I say, give me a little bit more energy, and because a break, but and you know, knowing how much that had been important to me, I thought, you know, I will try to continue that in some way. And each one of these things kind of fell into place. Tina Butler is the one who invited me to be on the board of the Horizon Prison Initiative. So I've been on that now for a couple of years. And then I had known about the circles, you know, through Judge Gill's program. So one thing just kind of fell through the other. And I thought they were things that I could do outside of my regular ministry, which was not going to take me away from my responsibilities, but could be done at night or on either times. Mm-hmm. Bill.
I'm involved in a ministry called Arch.
Coming citizens. Mm-hmm.
And this ministry is a ministry that I do.
Mm-hmm.
We welcome access to the offices and concerns. And so it's under the auspices of the diocese. And basically we're involved in several things. One, mentoring people who are coming out. Helping them get acclimated and back into society. For 4 years, and know how to use a cell phone. So that's one
And, you know, in relation to that, just the other night at our Horizon Ministry board meeting, we talked about that issue. You know, how does our ministry with Horizon, which is internal, network with what's external? You know, because these prisoners are going to be leaving, and we have no formal follow-up with them, but, you know, how do we connect with the outside ministries? The one program in Marysville, which is called Parenting from Within, is a program to help the women learn how to parent their children who are on the outside now, you know, and helping them to build parenting skills with. But, so it's, you know, there's a need for networking internally and externally. Yeah.
Well, if I ever go to prison, will you come and visit?
Sure. Sure we will.
That is really terrific. That is
Thank you.
terrific work that you can see all these people that are doing this kind of work, and certainly this is the prisoners. We just had 5 sisters that just came home a couple of days ago from the detention center. Is that where in El Paso, Texas, who have been down there at the border receiving asylum seekers and other people that are trying to cross the border. And that is they are just filled with the goodness of the people, and they are not involved in there's no crime going on at all. They were just filled with what they call holy moments that entered their life as they were there. And you always wish there'd be a big forum where they could come and talk to you about it. You know, sometimes we get limited, but anyway, thank you very, very much for coming.
You're welcome.
And
Thank
next
you.
month